Welcome to Unlocking Passion. Men report. Let's begin with a news story. Michael Harrington sat in the air-conditioned conference room of the VIP branch of Bangkok Bank in Phuket and watched as a bank employee with an increasingly worried expression reviewed transaction records on a computer screen. It was 10:30 on a Tuesday morning, and Mike had been called there because of irregularities in his accounts. Now, at 63 years old, with his shirt already sticking to his back despite the cold air, Mike watched as $630,000 of his life savings disappeared before his eyes in a cascade of outgoing transfers he had never authorized. The bank employee, a young Thai woman named Kun Apina, pointed at the screen with a perfectly manicured finger. "These transfers, Mr. Harrington. All of them were sent over the last 8 months to offshore accounts in Singapore and Hong Kong. Did you approve them?" Mike's mouth went dry. "I don't know. My fiancée Ploy handles most of the investment transfers. She's my business partner. But these amounts..." He broke off and stared at numbers that made no sense. 120,000, 95,000, 140,000 transfers every few weeks, steadily draining his accounts while he had been too distracted by love and dreams of the future to notice. Kun Apina's expression shifted from professional concern to something closer to pity. "Mr. Harrington, I must inform you that our fraud department has flagged your accounts. These offshore companies you transferred money to do not appear to exist. We cannot find any legitimate business registration for them." Mike felt the room tilt. "What do you mean, they don't exist?" Ploy showed me all the documents. Business licenses, title deeds, development contracts. Everything looked legitimate. We were building a resort together. But even as he said it, cold realization flooded through him. The resort that was always almost ready for him to visit, the business meetings she always attended alone, the documents she showed him but never allowed him to keep copies of, the investment opportunities that required immediate cash transfers, everything he had been too proud, too trusting, or too blinded by affection to question. "Where is Miss Tanchanok now?" Kun Apina asked gently. Mike pulled out his phone with trembling hands and tried to call Ploy. The number he had called dozens of times a day for the past 14 months had been disconnected. He tried reaching her through line. Blocked. He checked her location sharing, which she had activated months earlier as a gesture of trust. Disabled. In that air-conditioned conference room surrounded by the symbols of Thai banking professionalism, Michael Harrington understood with devastating clarity that the polished businesswoman who had promised him partnership, love, and a secure future in Thailand had carried out one of the most elaborate scams he had ever seen. And he, a former financial advisor who had spent years teaching clients how to protect their money, had been the perfect victim. Michael Harrington had built his entire career on helping people make smart financial decisions. For 35 years he had worked as a financial advisor in Denver, Colorado, managing portfolios for wealthy clients and building a reputation for conservative, intelligent investment strategies. Mike was not flashy or aggressive like some advisors. He was methodical, cautious, and deeply committed to protecting his clients' wealth. He had also done well for himself. By the time he turned 60, Mike had accumulated about 1,000 in savings and investments, owned a fully paid-off house in a nice suburb of Denver, and had a solid pension from his firm. He was the picture of financial success, but behind that success was a deep reservoir of personal pain. Mike's wife, Caroline, had died of ovarian cancer 4 years earlier. The illness had come suddenly and progressed with brutal speed, only 11 months from diagnosis to death. Mike had stood by her through every agonizing stage, but nothing had prepared him for the emptiness that followed. They had been married for years and had 2 children, a daughter named Emma who lived in Seattle and a son named David in Boston. Both were in their 30s, both were married with families of their own, and both had become increasingly distant after Caroline's death. Mike could not blame them. He had thrown himself into work as a coping mechanism and had become inaccessible and emotionally withdrawn. Emma stopped calling after he missed his grandson's birthday party because of a client meeting. David sent obligatory holiday texts, but nothing more. By the time Mike turned 60, he was professionally successful and personally isolated. He lived alone in a house full of memories of Caroline, had no close friends beyond superficial work relationships, and spent his evenings with whiskey and television. That was when Mike began thinking about early retirement. What was the point of continuing to work? He had more money than he needed. His children did not need him. He had no one to share his success with. The idea of spending another decade in Denver, alone in that house, seemed unbearable. Mike began researching retirement abroad. He wanted somewhere warm, affordable, and culturally interesting. Thailand kept appearing in his research, especially Phuket, with its beaches, international community, and infrastructure that could support an expat lifestyle. But Mike was not interested in the bar scene or the stereotypical expat experience. He wanted something more substantial, a community, a purpose, maybe even a way to use his financial knowledge to help others. In January, about 18 months earlier, Mike retired from his firm. He sold some investments, kept his house for the time being as a backup plan, and booked a 3-month exploratory trip to Phuket. When Mike's plane landed at Phuket International Airport on a humid January evening, he felt cautiously optimistic. This was his chance to reinvent himself and build a life with meaning beyond spreadsheets and investment portfolios. Phuket was beautiful. Turquoise water, white sand beaches, lush green hills. Mike rented a luxury condo in Patong for the first month while he explored different areas of the island. The place cost 45,000 baht per month, about 1,300, and offered a level of comfort Mike appreciated. Unlike some retirees who immediately threw themselves into the party scene, Mike spent his first weeks quietly observing. He ate at good restaurants, explored temples and scenic viewpoints, and attended events organized by various expat groups. He wanted to understand the culture, meet quality people, and find his niche. At the end of February, Mike attended a charity gala organized by the Phuket International Business Network, an organization of expat entrepreneurs and Thai business owners who networked and supported local causes. The event was held at a luxury hotel in Kata, with about 200 guests dressed formally. That was where Mike met Tanchanok Sirivong. Ploy introduced herself during the cocktail reception before dinner. Mike was standing alone near the bar, sipping a gin and tonic and watching the crowd, when a polished Thai woman in an elegant black dress approached him with a warm smile. "You look like someone who is thinking very deeply," she said in excellent English with a slight British accent. "First time at one of these events?" Mike smiled and appreciated the unobtrusive approach. "That obvious?" "Only to someone who is paying attention." She extended her hand. "Tanchanok Sirivong, but everyone calls me Ploy. I'm a real estate consultant and I work with foreign investors." Michael Harrington. Mike. Just moved here from Denver. Recently retired financial advisor. Ploy's eyes lit up with genuine interest. "A financial advisor. That's wonderful. We desperately need more people with that kind of expertise here. So many foreigners come to Phuket and make terrible investment decisions because they don't understand the market." They talked for the next hour, and Mike found himself genuinely impressed. Ploy was 35, educated in England, with a degree in business administration from the University of London, and she ran a small property consultancy that helped foreign investors navigate Thai real estate law. She was articulate, professional, and refreshingly substantial compared with the shallow conversations Mike had endured at other expat events. "The challenge," Ploy explained, "is that most foreigners don't understand Thai regulations. They see cheap property, get excited, and make emotional decisions. Then they lose everything because they don't structure things properly. Mike nodded. That's how people lose money in any market. Emotion overrides analysis. Exactly. You understand. Ploy smiled. Most foreigners here have no financial literacy. They're bartenders, teachers, or retirees living on pensions. Someone with your background could really make a difference. Mike felt a warm sense of validation. After years of being ignored by his children and feeling purposeless, here was someone who appreciated his expertise. They exchanged business cards before the evening ended. Ploy's card was professionally printed with her company name, Anderman Property Consultancy Limited, and contact information including an office address, phone number, email, and line ID. I'd love to continue this conversation, Ploy said. Maybe lunch this week. I can show you some investment opportunities that might interest someone with your analytical mindset. Mike agreed immediately. They met 3 days later for lunch at an upscale restaurant in Phuket town. Ploy arrived with a leather folder containing detailed presentations about property development opportunities in Phuket, specifically a mixed-use development near Rawai that promised excellent returns. The project is already 1/3 funded, she explained, showing glossy brochures with architectural renderings. We're looking for strategic investors who can bring both expertise and capital. Someone with your financial background would be invaluable for analyzing cash flows and return models. Mike studied the materials. Everything looked professional: detailed financial projections, architectural plans, even a site map showing the property location. The projected returns were attractive but not unrealistic, 8 to 12% annually over 5 years. Who else is involved? Mike asked. A consortium of Thai and foreign investors. I handle foreign investor relations. We have architecture firms, construction companies, all the necessary partners. But we're missing someone with serious financial expertise to oversee the investment structure. Mike felt something stir. Not just interest in the investment, but excitement at being needed for his skills and not just his money. Over the next 3 weeks, Mike and Ploy met regularly. She showed him property sites, introduced him to people she claimed were architects and contractors, and walked him through the legal structures for foreign investment in Thai real estate. Everything seemed legitimate and professional. But more than the business relationship, Mike found himself personally drawn to Ploy. She was intelligent, successful, and easy to be with. She asked about his life, listened carefully when he spoke about losing Caroline, and shared her own story of being divorced and focusing on building her career. I married young, she told him one evening over dinner, to a Thai man who wanted a traditional wife, but I wanted more than cooking and staying home. We divorced 5 years ago. Now I focus on my business. Mike respected that. She was independent, ambitious, and driven, qualities he admired. By the end of March, 2 months after meeting her, their relationship had shifted from professional to personal. They ate dinner together several times a week. Ploy invited Mike to her apartment, a modern, well-furnished place in Phuket town that reinforced her image of success. She introduced him to her friends, other young Thai professionals who genuinely seemed successful. One evening in early April, after an especially lovely dinner, Ploy kissed him. I know there's an age difference, she said softly, but I don't care. You're intelligent, successful, kind. You make me feel understood in a way Thai men never have. Mike felt his heart swell. He fell in love, and it felt real. Not transactional like the stories he had heard about bar girls, but genuine and mutual. Call to action. If Mike's story is already raising concerns, please subscribe to our channel for more true crime and romance scam documentaries from Southeast Asia. These sophisticated scams target intelligent, successful people by using emotional manipulation and professional presentations. By subscribing and sharing, you help others avoid making the same devastating mistakes. Press the subscribe button now and activate notifications. By May, Mike had made his first major investment in Ploy's development project. She presented him with a formal investment contract, pages of legal language outlining the terms, returns, and structure. The document looked legitimate, complete with notary stamps and official-looking seals. Mike invested $125,000 for a 7% stake in the development. "I want you as a partner, not just an investor," Ploy told him. "Your financial expertise will be crucial as we scale this project." Mike transferred the money to a company account Ploy provided, Anderman Development Holdings Limited. He received official receipts and documentation confirming his investment. In the following weeks, Mike felt energized. He had a purpose again. He analyzed cash flows, reviewed contractor bids, and met with people he believed were legitimate architects and engineers. Ploy involved him in every decision, asked for his opinion, and valued his input. "You've been so helpful," she told him one evening. "I don't know how I managed without you before." For the first time since Caroline's death, Mike felt truly useful. His children still barely communicated with him, but here was someone who appreciated him, needed him, loved him. In June, Ploy moved into Mike's apartment. It happened gradually, first staying a few nights a week, then most nights, then officially moving in. She contributed to rent and utilities and insisted on being an equal partner in their domestic life. "I don't want to depend on you," she said. "We are equal partners." Mike respected that. This was not a sugar baby relationship. This was a real partnership between successful adults. But then Ploy began suggesting that Mike invest more heavily. "There's an opportunity to acquire additional land adjacent to our project," she explained in early July. "If we can secure it now, we can expand the development and significantly increase the returns, but we need to move quickly before other investors hear about it." She showed him updated financial models, new architectural renderings, and a time-sensitive offer from the landowner. The additional investment required $150,000. Mike hesitated. That was a significant amount on top of his original investment. But Ploy's logic was sound and the projections looked solid. He had built his career on analyzing investments, and this one seemed fundamentally sound. He transferred the money. In August, there was another opportunity, construction equipment at a discount from a company liquidating assets. "It will save the project money in the long term," Ploy explained. Mike transferred the money. In September, unexpected permit fees and legal costs arose. $80,000 was needed immediately to avoid delays. Mike transferred the money. By October, Mike had invested $450,000 in various aspects of the project. His savings account had fallen from $1,000 to $750,000, a significant portion of his wealth, but still manageable. And according to Ploy, the project was making progress. She showed him photos of the construction site, foundation work, steel frames being erected, construction crews at work. Mike felt proud every time he saw those photos. He was building something, creating something. His money was no longer just sitting in conservative index funds. It was generating jobs and creating a development that would benefit the community. But then Ploy suggested something that made Mike uncomfortable. She wanted access to his Bangkok bank accounts for convenience. "It would make transfers easier," she explained. "I handle so many of the day-to-day transactions for the project. If I could transfer directly when opportunities come up, we wouldn't miss time-sensitive deals." Mike's financial advisor instincts sounded the alarm. Never give anyone unrestricted access to your accounts. Never. It was the most basic rule of financial security. But this was Ploy, his partner, his fiancée. They had become engaged in September during a romantic ceremony on Karen Beach. They were building a life together. Did marriage not mean trust? Did partnership not require shared access? "I'll set up a joint account," Mike suggested as a compromise. "We can use that for project expenses." Ploy looked hurt. "You don't trust me." "It's not about trust. It's about good financial practice. Mike, I have shown you everything. Every document, every transaction, every detail. We are partners. If you can't trust me with account access, what does that say about our relationship?" The guilt was immediate and effective. Mike was being paranoid, letting past experiences, Caroline's death and his children's rejection, poison something good. "You're right," Mike said. "I'm sorry. I'll add you to the accounts." The next day he went to the bank and added Ploy as an authorized signatory on his primary savings and checking accounts. She could now transfer money, make withdrawals, and manage transactions. "Thank you for trusting me," Ploy said that evening, kissing him passionately. "I promise I will never abuse that trust." And for a while everything seemed fine. Ploy used the access carefully, making transfers for project expenses and keeping Mike informed about everything. But Mike did not know that those project expenses were transfers to shell companies that existed only on paper. He did not know that the construction site photos came from different projects that Ploy had photographed and presented as her own. He did not know that the architects and engineers he had met were actors being paid to play roles. He did not know that everything, absolutely everything, was a carefully staged performance designed to drain his wealth while keeping him emotionally invested and distracted. By November, months after meeting Ploy, Mike had invested $680,000 in various project-related expenses. He had liquidated most of his investment portfolio, keeping only his pension and the equity in his house in Denver, which he was considering selling in order to move permanently to Thailand. Ploy suggested that they buy a permanent home together in Phuket, a beautiful villa in Kamala costing 9 million baht, about $250,000. Mike would make the down payment and finance the rest through a Thai bank mortgage, with the property registered in Ploy's name because of restrictions on foreign ownership. "But we'll have a legal agreement," Ploy assured him. "A usufruct contract giving you lifetime rights to the property. It's completely safe and common for foreign Thai couples." Mike considered it. The villa was beautiful, and a permanent home would be nice, but first he wanted to see the development project they had supposedly been working on for more than a year. "When can we visit the construction site?" Mike asked in late November. "I'd really like to see the progress in person." Ploy always had excuses. The site was not yet safe for visitors. The contractors were behind schedule and embarrassed to show the current conditions. The access road was being repaired and was impassable. Government inspections made visits impossible for a few weeks. Mike accepted these explanations at first, but as weeks turned into months, doubt began to creep in. Why could he not visit his own investment? Why were there always obstacles? Then, in early December, Mike received a strange call from an American expat named Robert, who had attended some of the same networking events. "Mike, I need to ask you something delicate," Robert said. "Are you involved in the Rawai development project with Anderman Development Holdings?" "Yes, I'm a major investor." "Why?" "I tried looking up the company to see whether there were investment opportunities. I can't find any legitimate business registration. Their business license number doesn't appear in the Department of Business Development database." Mike felt his stomach tighten. "Are you sure you're searching correctly?" "I'm sure. I've invested in several Thai companies. I know how to verify registration. Either they're registered under a completely different name or the company doesn't legally exist. I thought you should know." After hanging up, Mike spent the next 3 hours trying to verify the existence of Anderman Development Holdings. He searched the Department of Business Development website, looked up the tax identification number, and tried to find any official government record of the company. Nothing. The company seemed to exist only on paper, in the documents Ploy had shown him, but nowhere in official government databases. Mike confronted Ploy that evening. "I can't find any official registration for Anderman Development Holdings. Can you show me the actual government registration documents?" Ploy did not hesitate. "Of course. The company is registered under a slightly different name for tax reasons. I'll bring the documents from the office tomorrow." But tomorrow came and went without the documents. Ploy said she had forgotten them. Then the office was closed for a holiday. Then she could not find the specific file. Then her assistant, who handled the documentation, was sick. Excuses piled on top of excuses, and Mike's anxiety grew. He began reviewing his bank statements more carefully, something he had been too trusting to do regularly. What he found made his blood run cold. Beyond the large transfers he knew about, there were dozens of smaller transfers to various accounts he did not recognize. 15,000 there, 8,000, 20,000, transfers Ploy had made using her access to his accounts. Transfers Mike had never authorized or even known about. Mike added them up. The total was astronomical. 630,000 had been transferred out of his accounts over the last 10 months, far more than the investment amounts he had knowingly agreed to. With trembling hands, Mike called the bank and requested a fraud investigation meeting. That was when he received the call that brought him to the VIP branch of Bangkok Bank, where he stared at transaction records confirming his worst fears. The bank's fraud department worked with frightening efficiency once Mike reported the unauthorized transfers. Within 48 hours, they had traced the money to a network of shell companies in Singapore, Hong Kong, and the British Virgin Islands. The companies existed only on paper, no physical offices, no employees, no legitimate business operations. They were financial ghosts designed to receive and launder money. Anderman Development Holdings, Anderman Property Consultants, Rowai Development Corporation, none of them were legitimate registered Thai companies. The business licenses Ploy had shown Mike were sophisticated forgeries. The construction photos had been taken from other legitimate projects and presented as her own. The architects and engineers Mike met were actors hired through a Thai casting agency and paid a few €100 per meeting to play roles. The investment documents were professional fakes complete with forged notary seals and legal jargon. Even Ploy's apartment, the modern, well-furnished place that had seemed to confirm her success, was a short-term rental she had decorated specifically to impress Mike. The bank connected Mike with the Thai Economic Crime Suppression Division, which assigned a detective named Captain Sumchai to the investigation. Sumchai was an experienced officer who had seen this kind of fraud before. "Mr. Harrington, I need to tell you something difficult," Sumchai said during their first meeting. "The woman you know as Tanchanak Sirivong is not who she claims to be." He showed Mike a file. Ploy's real name was Tanchanak Sirivong, but she had never attended the University of London. She had never earned a business degree. She had spent her 20s working in entertainment venues and had been arrested twice for minor fraud before moving on to more sophisticated operations. "She works with a network," Sumchai explained. "They target wealthy foreign men, usually divorced or widowed, usually professionals who think they are too smart to be scammed. They create elaborate fake business opportunities, build emotional relationships to gain trust, and systematically drain accounts." "How many victims?" Mike asked, his voice high. "That we know of, 8 in the last 6 years. Total theft, about €3 million. But many victims never reported out of embarrassment." Sumchai showed Mike photos of other victims, men from America, Britain, Australia, and Germany, all successful professionals, all between 55 and 70 years old. All had lost between 400,000 and 1,000 to Ploy and her network. "Where is she now?" Mike asked. "We tracked her to Singapore 2 days ago. She flew out the same day your bank flagged the fraud. Singapore does not extradite for financial crimes unless there is evidence of violent crime. She is effectively safe there." Mike felt the room spin. "So she just gets away with it." "We will try to freeze assets if we can locate them. We will file charges in Thailand and issue warrants. But realistically, yes, she will probably escape justice. These networks are sophisticated. They move money through multiple jurisdictions, use false identities, and disappear before victims realize what has happened." Mike went home to the apartment he had shared with Ploy, now empty of her belongings, and systematically went through everything she had left behind. He found a pregnancy test in the bathroom, positive. Another manipulation tactic, probably another way to secure his attachment and cloud his judgment. He found a passport in a drawer, but the photo showed Ploy under a different name, Sirapan Ratanakul, a false identity, probably one of several she maintained. He found title deeds for their investment properties, all forgeries with official-looking stamps that would fall apart under expert scrutiny. Everything she had shown him, everything she had promised him, every document she had presented, all of it had been meticulously constructed lies. Mike sat alone in that empty apartment and felt something inside him break, not just his financial security, but his fundamental trust in his own judgment. He had spent 35 years advising people on financial decisions, and he had walked straight into the most obvious scam imaginable because a beautiful woman had made him feel valuable. Mike hired the best lawyer in Phuket, a Thai attorney named Kun Narong, who specialized in fraud cases involving foreigners. Narong reviewed all the evidence and delivered his assessment with professional sympathy. "Mr. Harrington, we can pursue civil and criminal cases, but I need to be honest about your chances of recovery. The money was moved offshore into jurisdictions with strong banking secrecy laws. Even if we win judgments, collection will be nearly impossible. The assets you thought you owned were never real. The woman you trusted has multiple identities and is currently outside Thai jurisdiction. I estimate the recovery potential at less than 5%. 5%. Mike's voice broke. "I invested 600,000. I'm very sorry. These scams are designed specifically to be legally complex and financially unrecoverable. The perpetrators know exactly how to structure things to avoid consequences." Mike pursued the legal steps anyway, spending another $35,000 on lawyers, investigators, and international legal consultations. After 8 months of effort, he recovered about $11,000 from a frozen Singapore account before the network moved the remaining assets out of reach. Total recovery, less than 2% of his losses. Meanwhile, Mike's financial situation had become desperate. He had used up most of his liquid funds, and his pension alone, about $4,000 per month, was not enough to maintain his previous lifestyle. In desperation, Mike sold his house in Denver. The market had cooled since he left, and after paying off the mortgage he had taken against it to finance more of Ploy's investments, he received $170,000 net. Combined with his remaining savings and pension, Mike had about $225,000 left. It was enough to survive, but Mike had lost almost all of his wealth. His children, already distant before, became openly judgmental when they learned what had happened. Emma called him pathetically naive. David said he was embarrassed to explain to his wife that his father had been scammed by a Thai woman. Neither offered financial help or emotional support. Mike moved from Phuket to Chiang Mai, where the cost of living was lower. He rented a small one-bedroom apartment for 12,000 baht per month, about 350s, in a quiet neighborhood away from the tourist areas. He was now 65, living on a budget that allowed no luxuries, with no realistic hope of rebuilding his wealth and no one but himself to blame. 6 months after Ploy disappeared, Captain Sumchai contacted Mike with an update. "We've learned more about the network," Sumchai said. "Ploy works with at least 3 other Thai women and several Thai men who play supporting roles, the fake architects, lawyers, and contractors. They operate throughout Thailand and Southeast Asia and target foreign wealth. They have stolen at least €5 million over the last 7 years. Have you caught any of them?" Mike asked. "We arrested 2 of the men who played architects. They are cooperating in exchange for reduced sentences, but the main players, Ploy and the other women, are outside our jurisdiction. One is in Singapore, one in Malaysia, and one possibly in Vietnam. They keep moving, always ahead of law enforcement." Sumchai revealed something else. Ploy had been married, not divorced as she had claimed, but actively married to a Thai man who was also part of the fraud network. In some scams he played the role of the business partner, in others the romantic rival, whatever the script required. "She also has a child," Sumchai added. "A 4-year-old daughter living with Ploy's mother in Bangkok, all financed by fraud proceeds." Mike absorbed this with numb detachment. The woman he had loved, the partner he had trusted, the fiancé he had planned a future with, had been playing a role while living a completely separate real life. Everything had been fiction. Sumchai connected Mike with other victims. Through emails and video calls, Mike connected with 5 men who had been scammed by Ploy or her network. James from Australia had lost $475,000 in a fake hotel development scheme. Henrik from Norway had lost $620,000 in restaurant investment fraud. Robert from England, the same Robert who had warned Mike about the company registration, had lost $390,000 in another property scheme. All their stories were variations of the same theme: sophisticated presentation, emotional manipulation, professional documentation, gradual draining of assets, and disappearance once the money was gone. "The worst part," Henrik said during a video call, "isn't even the money. It's that she made me feel smart, valuable, needed. She made me feel important, and all of it was calculated to lower my guard." Mike understood exactly what he meant. Michael Harrington now lives modestly in a small apartment in Chiang Mai, surviving on his pension and the remains of his savings. He is 66 years old, and the life he imagined for himself, wealthy retirement, meaningful projects, a loving partnership, is gone forever. But Mike has found a new purpose: warning others. He started a blog called The Financial Advisor Who Was Scammed, detailing his experience with brutal honesty. He writes about every manipulation tactic Ploy used, every red flag he ignored, every moment his ego overrode his judgment. The blog has become popular in expat communities, with thousands of readers and dozens of men reaching out to thank Mike for possibly saving them from similar fates. Mike also volunteers with the Thai Economic Crime Suppression Division, helping them identify fraud patterns and educate potential victims. His financial knowledge, the same knowledge Ploy exploited, is now helping law enforcement understand how these sophisticated scams work. "The hardest thing to accept," Mike wrote in a recent blog post, "is that this happened because of my emotional vulnerabilities, not despite my intelligence. Ploy didn't target me because I was stupid. She targeted me because I was lonely, grieving, and desperate to feel valuable. She gave me exactly what I needed emotionally while systematically taking everything I had financially, and she was so good at it that I never saw it coming until it was too late." Last month, Mike received an email from a 62-year-old American named Thomas, who had been dating a Thai woman for 3 months. She had just suggested that they invest together in a property development project with all the same sophisticated presentations and professional documentation Mike remembered. Thomas recognized the pattern from Mike's blog and walked away before investing a single euro. "You saved me," Thomas wrote. "I was about to liquidate my retirement accounts. Your blog helped me see what I couldn't see for myself. Thank you." Mike read the email 3 times and felt something close to redemption. If his catastrophic loss could save others from the same fate, then maybe there was meaning in the destruction. He still thinks about Ploy sometimes, not with love which died the moment he understood the scale of the fraud, but with a kind of professional respect. She was extraordinary at what she did. The attention to detail, the emotional intelligence, the ability to read people and give them exactly what they needed. It was masterful, evil, but masterful. Mike will never recover financially from what happened. He will live the rest of his life on a fraction of what he once saved. He will never retire in luxury or leave an inheritance to his children, who no longer speak to him anyway. He will never trust a romantic partner again, but he is still here, still warning others, still using his story to protect people from predators like Ploy. "She didn't just steal my money," Mike recently told a journalist. "She stole the last part of me that believed in people. And that's the real crime. Not the euros, but the part of my humanity that trusted, hoped, and believed in connection. She killed that, and I will spend the rest of my life trying to stop her from killing it in others." If Mike's story affected you, please subscribe immediately and share this video. Romance and investment scams are becoming increasingly sophisticated and target educated, intelligent people who think they are too smart to be deceived. These predators do not exploit stupidity. They exploit loneliness, grief, and the human need for connection and purpose. By sharing stories like Mike's, we protect vulnerable people from financial and emotional devastation. Subscribe now, activate notifications, and help us spread this critical message. Your share could prevent someone from losing everything. Thank you for watching. And remember, real partnerships do not require you to give up financial control. Verify everything. Trust slowly. And never let emotion override analysis. Stay safe out there.